Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Yankees Farm Report. As you can see, today we have a newcomer, Toby Schulman. He's joining the show today. Welcome, Toby.
Thank you guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks for coming on. We're going to get right into it. We have a few topics we want to talk about today. We're going to give you an IFA update. We wanted to talk about top prospects named by Baseball America and Baseball Prospectus, and the state of the farm system, and a couple other topics we want to touch on. So, getting right into the IFA updates. If you haven't already heard, which I'm probably sure everyone has, we've been waiting on this news for months. Mario Garza was promoted to the director of international scouting. Um, Previous background, he was the director of baseball development for the Yankees for about 4, maybe 5 years or so. And he was promoted right around the time where Sam Breen came into the org. So they all kind of came up together. He was also the director of Latin American operations from 15 to 19. He was a manager in the farm system. And if you didn't know, he managed the spring breakout Yankees game last season. Um, so getting into the IFA classes so far, we're off to a rocky start once again. It's just barely 2026, and the 2027 class has already been decimated after losing Myron De La Rosa. Then the hits just keep humming. Another IFA is no longer linked to the Yankees today. Jasson, I forgot what his last name was, but a right-handed pitcher out of Venezuela. And those updates keep coming out a few of them every week, it seems. So the 2027 class is not off to a good start. I mean, at this point, I'm just hoping that Garza can just slow or stop the bleeding.
You think they're at the point where they're making new decisions on players that they already scouted? Or is this is just still the snowball running downhill that was working before?
I mean, he basically inherited a runaway train, right? He's got
Yeah.
to stop it, try to reverse course somehow. I did notice that there was a new Yankee prospect or a new kid that they have linked in 2028. I don't know if that was his doing or if that was already in the works, but I did see that. Um, he's got his work cut out for him.
I'm just curious to see if they're going to change processes. If this is somebody who I know they synced up the draft with their sports science and their psychological group and all those things. So there's systems they have in place for the domestic draft. They seem to be reaping the benefits of that.
Mhm.
I'm wondering if they'll change systems internationally, but that's just it's a different game in that arena.
I just think thing, the thing that I find most compelling is, well, it was an internal hire, and I think all of us when we first saw that probably, tensed up a little bit. He came in as previously being the director of player development, which he started like Carlos said in 2020. Came in with Sam Breen, who obviously has done great things for the pitching, and Dylan Lawson, who while his stint as hitting coach for the big club didn't go as we all would have liked. He was there right when Anthony Volpe started getting hot, and Austin Wells and Jason Dominguez. So, he was a part of the initial, I guess, group of hires that really took this farm system up a notch. And I don't know exactly what the director of player development entails. You would hope that that would have already had an impact at the DSL level. I don't know what exactly the barrier is there and why the DSL hasn't been performing as well. But it seems like a guy who has a reasonable impact in why the Yankees farm has been operating better this decade. So giving him the keys to just focus solely on IFAs, I don't know if it's going to work. I don't think any of us do, but it definitely gives me, some hope and just, it's really intriguing, and it's not just an internal hire of someone who had been in that process with Rowland. It's a guy who, yes, he has been with the Yankees, but this has not been his area, and he can maybe bring fresh eyes and bring some of the things that, improve this farm system on the state side to the Dominican complex.
Yeah, I think that was my initial take on it was just that it was like another internal hire. But then once you look at his resume, you're like, well, okay, this kind of makes sense then. He does seem to have some credentials. I have heard feedback that he's really great with the young, with the prospects in the system. So, I mean, there's hope there. There's hope. Like you said, that it wasn't just an internal hire just because he's been with the organization for a long time. I personally was hoping for, an outsider to bring fresh ideas, new eyes, and a different outlook on things. But I think I'm okay with the Garza hiring. It's like I said, his resume looks like he was being groomed for the job.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree with
their
that.
scouts
And
have identified talent. They've done a good job of bringing in talent over the years. So, is it a development issue? Can we sync up the development with the talent that they're bringing in? And really, I mean, maybe they don't make a change if the high dollar signs had continued to become top prospects, but you miss on enough of those guys, and then the call for change comes about.
yeah, and I mean with this hire in particular, I'm not the most well versed in international free agents as much as you guys are, but I certainly thought they were going outside hire with how long this hiring process was taking. I don't, again, not as well versed as you guys, but I really thought that this hire was going to happen way before the signing period started. And I think Carlos, maybe even me and you talked about it, the fact that they didn't have anybody during that time. We kind of knew something was going to go south there, and it just kind of like you keep saying snowballs and keeps continuing to not kind of go their way. So I agree with you, Carlos, as well. I love the hire. If it is a kind of inside hire, uh, but I'm hoping that it ends up working out because it took them a long time to find the guy.
Yeah, to your point, they could have hired him in November and we could have
Exactly.
felt just as good about it. And maybe some things don't happen.
Absolutely. I mean, maybe he could have salvaged the Wandy thing. Same thing with Myron. Who knows? Um, Another thing. I've known about it for over 2 years. Wilbur just dropped it. What is it, last week about Albert Mejia's shortstop out of Venezuela. I had him locked in at about a 6.4 million deal for 2030. Wilbur reported about a $7 million signing. I don't know how the Yankees get there. Obviously that means they can't sign any free agents with a qualifying offer in that offseason. And again, this is a handshake agreement, which is when he becomes of age he will be signing with the Yankees if the Yankees are still in agreement with that. That doesn't mean he signed with the Yankees. I've seen a lot of huge accounts posting Yankees signed $7 million 13-year-old kid, which is crazy. It did not sign him. It's a handshake agreement. It's not worth anything except for your word.
You just described the difference in the international free agent market with the domestic draft with just that. That you've known about this for a long time, and the kid is 13 right now.
Mhm.
So it doesn't work like that scouting in the United States. The way the game is played internationally is just totally different, and most of us do not understand it.
I mean, we've
I
had this
think another
discussion before. Go ahead.
I was gonna say another interesting thing that that you said is you're talking about all these Yankee accounts talking about this $7 million guy we're signing. Um, this is we're dangerously teetering on the same issue that happened befell Jason Dominguez, where Jason Dominguez, a 16-year-old kid being called the Martian, and a combo between Mickey Mantle and Mike Trout and
Oh
all
my
these
God.
outlandish things that were just never going to become true. And yes, Jason was a top 25 prospect. No, he wasn't number top five prospect. Yes, he has some flaws at the MLB level, but he also still has the potential to be a very solid, at least a very, very good platoon hitter. And just, but some reason that's not enough for people. And I find it crazy, when I saw that tweet calling this 13-year-old one of the best international prospects ever. Where this kid, like, he's in his bar mitzvah year. Like, I can relate to, like, this kid isn't really, grown up yet. So, it's obviously it's nice to get a hit on a very talented player. It is hard with how far in advance these things go. It is nice to have one of the guys who projects to be the top in that class because it's there's not many of them each year. So it's good that it's done, but like I don't want to get any expectations up again, seeing how the whole Dominguez thing has gone.
And like you said, Carlos, let's see what he looks like in 3 years because maybe they go
Yeah.
back to him and say, "Oh, remember that 6 point whatever million? We
Yeah,
think you're a
I
$3 million
mean,
player now, or
the
$2
thing with
million.
the thing with the Yankees is that I know that for a fact that they have certain metrics that that players need to hit. I don't know if this happens for every organization, but for example, if you don't hit 6 feet, they start docking. They want some of that money back. If you don't hit a certain weight, they want some of that money back. And what I can say is that from the first time um that I saw Albert, he's a lot bigger. He's a lot bigger because the first time I saw him, I was like, Jesus Christ, the guy looks like he's my son. So he's filling out well. He's growing well, but again, he's still got some ways to go before people could actually start getting excited about this. But again, it's a handshake agreement. They did not sign this kid. Again, I've seen this multiple accounts, huge accounts posting about this. It's just a handshake agreement. Um, and that's where we are. It's exciting, but like Aaron said, it's a wait and see approach because a lot can change from here to there. The last thing that I wanted to talk about was Marcus. You and I spoke about this was Bill Madden's article regarding the Yankees IFA department and the rumors that he's heard. And I don't know, man, but it just rubbed me the wrong way, right? These are people who've been in the organization for about 15 years or so, and then now you're just slinging mud at them, just throwing wild accusations. I don't care if it was allegedly Randy Levine, whatever it is, man. This is not a guy that was in the organization for 1 or 2 years. This is someone who's been in the organization for 15 years. If you're gonna accuse him of that, and if you're like a big time journalist, I would hope you at least have some evidence of this. At least have some evidence of this.
And no, look,
And
there've been
and
talk
it's money.
about,
And
yeah,
hold on, and it's money. It's money. So that means that if there's money, there's a paper trail. You just follow the money.
there's been talk about that for a long time, but the way he dropped it in his article was kind of flippant, as in, he said at the complex they've been skimming bonuses. Well, there's a different. Is it the trainers are taking a cut for the players that got signed? Because that's different from inflating a bonus and having them take money off the top of it. In the age of hard capped international signing bonuses, I have a hard time believing that they're throwing extra money out there for trainers to skim off the top.
You only get X amount of dollars,
Yeah. So
and that money has to be accounted for.
I didn't see anybody else reporting on that. I didn't see any source for that. And other people who had reported on the situation didn't even bring that up. So I don't know. I thought that was kind of an irresponsible thing to say.
Yeah, like I said, it bothered me. And another thing is I saw um someone asked Hector Gomez about it, right? And he responded in such a way that I'm like, bro, this sounds like someone who had to write a book report and just read the back page because he didn't have time. He responded, they asked him about like why is this going on? And he responded, because they have problems with staff at the academy. Like, what the fuck does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? That's
I don't
garbage
even
to
want to
me.
begin to get into that one.
Right.
All right. So moving on over to the affiliates, Baseball America just named 4 Yankees to their top 100s, which is George Lombard, Carlos Sagrange, Elmer Rodriguez Cruz, or now going by Elmer Rodriguez, and Dax Kilby. Spencer Jones has been dropped off the list, but the Yankees did get 4 there. And on the baseball perspective, you add Ben Hess, and they have 5 on that list, which is not bad, considering all the moves that all the cleaning out that Cashman has done of the farm system over the last half a year, 6, 7 months.
Yeah, not what I expected for sure. Especially with a guy like Hess being thrown on there at the end of the, what'd you say, baseball prospectus list, was
Mhm.
it?
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
huge
6.
because his second half was so good. I mean, I'm sure all of us are expecting big things out of him in 2026. So to see other, big labels saying that, I mean, I love seeing that.
Yeah, I think the thing that caught my eye is, I mean, first of all, this is probably the most prospects we've had on the top 100 list, probably since, Anthony Volpe and Austin Wells were still prospects. But, while it's nice having guys on the list, if you hear, if you follow Baseball America writers like Carlos Collazo or JJ Cooper, they'll always tell you that it comes in tiers. And, a lot of people have probably seen the power, the list of the top 30 systems that have come out. And, we're kind of in that, maybe late teens, but, early 20s. And, part of that is because while, yes, it is nice having 4, even 5 top 100 prospects, besides Lombard, they're all 51 through 60. I guess Kilby was top 50 by prospectus, but point being is, a 50th ranked prospect, the difference between 1 and 50, well, even 25 and 50 is a lot bigger than the difference between 50 and 100. So while having all of those top 100 guys is great, I'm excited to see if guys like Kilby or Hess or Legrand, if he sticks in the minors for a little bit more, or even if Lombard, if he's able to take a step with his bat, if they get pushed into that top 50, having three guys in that top 50, even maybe a couple guys in the top 25, I want to see where the system looks after that, because that's a lot more true value.
Issue is don't look over the edge once you get past those guys because it's it gets
Yeah.
a little rough past there. And that's really the trick. If you look at all the guys they've traded over the last year, 2 years, they haven't really touched their marquee players to make trades. So developing in that depth, that is the most important part of 2026 for them is what comes up behind that group is going to have a big impact on this year.
And that moves us right into the main course of this episode, which is the state of the farm system, right? After recent trades, the farm system's lacking, right? Lacking the depth that it once had, and it's seriously depleted of bats. We're talking over 20 prospects dealt since the last trade deadline. Several top 30 prospects like Griffin Herring, Rock Riggio, Gage Zio, and Dylan Lewis, who, I was expecting big things from coming into this season. Where does that leave the system?
Not in a great spot. I mean, if we're being completely honest, like
Of
there are
course.
some guys, and I mean, we could probably sit here for a while and talk about some guys who could maybe break out to the point of a Dylan Lewis or guys who could play the depth role of a Dylan Hasso. But I mean, if you're really looking at the system, it's just pitchers. Like and
Hmm.
that's not a bad thing. We know the Yankees are going to use mostly pitchers to help strengthen their big league team through the farm. But as prospect guys, we can't sit here and just comfortably look at the farm system and say position crop is in a good spot. It's not great right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think they're gonna have to lean. Well, the last year's draft class is gonna have to do a lot of the lifting, and some of the guys from the DSL hopefully are stateside this year
Hmm.
and help the system out. I'm looking at guys like Core Jackson, Caden Kent, maybe even Richie Bonamalo, Steven Marinez, hopefully stateside this year. Kenny Pineda, hopefully he's healthy. Francisco Valorio, maybe Richard Matique as well.
Yeah, I think there's definitely, like, I'm not as down about it, as some people may be, because you're right. Like it is, pretty. I'm looking at my top prospects list right now, and of the first 18, only three of them are. Yeah, there's only three bats in my top 18. Um,
Sounds
it's
about right.
it is it's it's thin.
Hmm.
But the 2025 class that really returns from that with Kilby, then Jackson Lovich had a really hot start as well.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It gives me some hope there. And then it was a pretty strong year from the DSL offensively.
Hmm.
You already mentioned Matique and Marinez and Kenny Pineda. And at least, we were pretty darn sure at least two of those three will be stateside, if not all three. There is reasons for optimism that some of that depth could be replenished. But yeah, trading 20 prospects in, you know, 5, 6 months is hard for any system to take. The one thing I think I might have said this last time that I just find really interesting is we know how good of a pitching development system the Yankees are.
Hmm.
And not that guys like Kyle Carr or Andrew Landry or Cade Smith are like at the top of any team's wish list, but those are good guys who can be pieces and
Hmm.
deals. And I don't know why, but it just seems like the industry isn't interested in pitching prospects as much as they are is in the finished material. So that's going to be something interesting to see how the Yankees handle is, what do you do with all these guys? Because I think there's a lot of, I think a lot of talented guys right there who could, at the very least, be solid relievers. And might scoff at that, but then you look at, some of the trades for some relievers that have happened over the last few years. So, it's going to be interesting to see if they want to maybe, quote unquote, replenish the system. It's going to be see that these pitchers, they find a way to get them involved and that they break out. So either they don't have to trade for Camilo Doval and a Jake Bird and a David Bednar, or that they can flip a guy like Kyle Carter, becomes a good reliever maybe, and then you get prospects back for that. So that's what I'm looking at as kind of an optimism for how this system can be refilled.
To your point, Aaron, the industry has gotten good at developing pitching because you
Mhm.
take that raw material with pitch design and with technology, they've been able to develop pitching at a lot faster rate as they've been able to develop the guys who can hit it. You know, they say every pitch that you're swinging at or not swinging at is developed in a lab, and the average fastball is approaching 95 miles an hour from a right-hander. I mean, you're talking about nasty stuff from everybody. Now a guy throws 92 and you're like, he, that's not interesting. So the hitting's just not developed at the same rate, understandably. But to your point, that those are the guys who are moving in trades as the bats. Like you look at the Yankee system, just the sheer numbers of the guys that are gone, you don't see a depth chart of guys they signed. They have to go out and get minor league free agents just to fill rosters. So to Carlos, what you said about the last year's draft and the guys coming up from the DSL, they really need those guys to develop in short order. And then we can also say on the optimistic side, the Parks Harbor, the Dylan Hasso, the Rafael Flores, the Ben Shields, the undrafted free agents that turned into something really quickly. I mean, for God's sake, a pipeline puts out their top 10 third baseman in minor league baseball, and Parks Harper's on the list. And that's incredible. So those guys can come out of the woodwork. The Yankees kind of need them to if they're going to have trade ammo once the deadline comes around this year.
I just think one more point I want to just get in on that is I think we also have to look at the trades as a positive sign for the organization because we've talked about how the hitting development has lagged behind the pitching development for years now. The fact that, you just looked at a bunch of UDFAs, but, Dylan Lewis and Brendan Jones were picked in the 12th and 13th round. That is a good sign that our hitting development is turning around, that we can trade all these guys for legitimate pieces. Now the trick just becomes doing it with maybe more raw play than what you had last year. So, even if, I'm not looking for 2026 bats to be producing at the same level, but if they can, if they're producing, even, a little behind it, I take that as a win because that's doing a lot with not as good material. So yeah, that's just the last thought on that.
Yeah.
Who should fans be looking at to fill those offensive gaps?
I think you already mentioned a really good name in Richard Matik. I mean, again, I'm not positive if he'll be stateside, and I sure hope he is
Should be
because
stateside. He spent
regardless,
2 seasons in DSL. Yeah.
Yeah.
right. So regardless of level, he was one of our better hitters in the farm system. I mean,
Mhm.
you got to think he's going to eventually shoot into our top 30. It's just a matter of time at this point.
Mhm.
Jay Savina in the back end of the top 30 right now. I mean, if we're talking about guys who are probably going to get dealt at the deadline next year, like if he has a good season and a good first half, I mean, you could pretty much kiss him goodbye, I feel like. He did pretty good last year. I think he had what, like over 10 home runs and
Mhm.
WRC plus well north of 100. So well above league average there. Couple other guys like in the A ball levels. Tyler Wilson is an interesting switch hitter. I think he could maybe break out a little bit more next year. Um, Moylan too, Josh Moylan, I think his name is. He's pretty
Mhm.
solid. I mean, didn't put up crazy numbers, but again, some guys that I think maybe have a bit more to offer, especially with some guys now out of the farm system. Like it's kind of hard to pick and choose. I feel like you're kind of just grabbing these guys who are maybe a little bit above league average hitters, and maybe hoping they can just turn it up a little bit more next year. But those are just personally the guys that I'm looking at, and like we already kind of said, most of those guys fall in kind of the DSL at this point.
I'll give three names. This is a name I said last time we were on, but I think it's definitely a guy worth repeating, and that's Emmanuel Tejada.
Mm.
Um, or Tejada, excuse me.
It's like a
But
forgotten
when
man.
I was studying him, he hasn't shown any power yet in the minor league level. He was interrupted by a torn ACL, that cost him, half of 2024 season, half of the 2025 season. But when I was looking at his profile, it is strikingly similar to Dax Kilby's in that He makes a boatload of contact. He does not chase. And while he doesn't have as high of exit velocities as, doesn't impact the ball as strongly as Kilby showed in his 18 games, it's still, above average. Um, and when compare him to Kilby, Kilby has potential to be a top 20, top 10 prospect in baseball even. I don't think Tejeda has that in him. But I think he has, if he can start impacting the ball and getting it in the air and pulling it in the air more, that's the main thing. I think you're looking at a guy who can definitely be a top 20 bat in the system. And then the other two names that just really stick to me are, Core Jackson, putting aside his off the field issues, this is a guy who had among the very best exit velocities in
Hmm.
college baseball last year. And while there's still, holes and things to fix, and his run in high A wasn't the best in that brief stint, when you have a guy who hits the ball hard, that's always a great place to start with the prospect because that's something you really can't always teach. And then the last guy I want to point out is a guy who kind of had a rough year last year, but Engel Urena.
Hmm.
You know, we were talking about the lack of hitting prospects, but also we have a lack of catchers because we've traded a lot of catchers. Um, what we had such a surplus of, we've pretty much emptied out. And he was a guy I was looking forward to break out last year, and he just really couldn't ever get out of first gear in Tampa. He had some good profile results, but just wasn't impacting the ball hard and wasn't hitting it for enough power. And then he got promotion to high A, and it just really fell apart. And I really still think there could be a good player. And Toby, was it you that tweeted about him? I
I did
think.
like last week, I think. Yeah, I think I
Yes.
said something similar to it. I see the exact same things in him. I think he was like a sub 200 hitter on the year, maybe.
It was
Hmm.
right around there. It was, I'm gonna pull up I am on Fangraphs. Let me pull this up real quickly. Because yeah, in low A, he was a 207 average with 328 on base and 329 slug for a 92 WRC plus. But he's K percent 19.3, walk percent 13.3. So walked struck pretty nice K to walk ratio there. But yeah, only 9 home runs, and I believe with he hits the ball in the air. Only 33% ground ball rate. That's really good for someone who's like only 21 years old, but he just, is not impacting it enough and clearly just not, I don't know if it's strength. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe bat path, maybe just, yeah, but it's just, it wasn't clicking. But there, some of those metrics that you saw, like, he's like, I don't want to give up on him yet.
No, he's like it feels like he's banging on the door of like a full breakout right now. And we
Yeah.
might sound crazy saying that, but I really don't think it's that hard to see.
And
No,
he's
yeah.
a
I
guy
mean,
who missed a
obvious.
lot of time with injury. So there's some
Hmm.
Yeah.
games that he hasn't played that could factor into that too. And just to piggyback on what Aaron's saying, Tejeda is a guy who gives off Tyro Estrada vibes to me. And Aaron, I think you hit it on the head when you said, because Estrada will hit the ball in the air, hit the ball over the fence when he was a younger player. And that's the piece that's missing with Tejeda, but just a rock solid baseball player that looks like he can come from the outside when no one's paying attention to him and become a prospect. And then I saw, the Yankees tend to leave guys alone when they draft them and let them play a little bit on the hitting side before they jump in and start making changes. I saw Core Jackson play live, and as soon as I saw him get in the box, I thought they're going to change his setup. They're going to work on this guy this offseason. I'm really excited to see what he does coming out of spring training because if he comes in with a different setup, different approach, they do some work on him mechanically. I think that raw material there is to be a pretty good baseball player.
Going back to the catching situation, I mean, this year stateside, you should have Justin Capayan coming from the DSL, Carlos Villarroel, who's showed really good power. Kenny Pineda is already in Tampa, so cavalry is coming in terms of helping with that catching depth. I don't know how they're all going to get playing time, but you should have about three catchers coming over from the DSL this season, maybe even four if Carlos Rodon is one of the other guys as well.
And then what would help the system in a huge way is if some of the names we know have bounce back years, the
Mhm.
Brando Maes, if the Dexter's Peralta, the Roderick Arias, if there's anything left there for hope, if he becomes more of the guy that we hoped he would be, that would be huge for the system. If some of those players who we know become more of what we thought they would be.
I'm still on this Roderick Arias hill.
Yeah.
Not coming down yet. I'm giving him one more
It's
season.
hard to. It's hard
One more
to.
season. I'm giving him one more season.
It's the winter. Let's hold on to hope.
You know, if I'm giving
Uh-oh, here
Angel
comes the wet
Correa,
blanket. Here comes the wet. Oh, okay.
no, look else. I'm gonna say if
Okay,
I'm
okay.
giving Angel Correa some length, even though Roderick has had kind of two disappointing years instead of one, but he's still only 21. This will be his, he'll be 20, basically 21 the entire season. So like, if I'm gonna give Urena a little bit of more run, I think it's only fair to, while he may not be a top 50 prospect for me right now, I can't, completely shut him out on refinding form. So yeah, I would love to see Marios, prove most of us wrong because I think many of us have given up on him. Not
I
given
mean,
up, but tampered on him.
in regards to Arias, I was thinking about this today. I'm like, how much of last season could we chalk up to the mental part of the game, which hardly ever gets spoken about, right? Because you come in from the off season and you're thinking, okay, yeah, I'm gonna make it to Hudson Valley this year. Yeah, I'm gonna get that promotion. I think it's been over a year now, but I think he ended 24 season from like July 1st to the end of the season. He hit like 271 with like 10 or 11, 12 home runs, something like that. Like he was on a tear for the last piece of that season. And he looked like he was going to be sent to Hudson Valley, but it ended up being not the case. So
I have the
I
stats on
wonder,
that. It was a 268 average, 379 on base, 443 slugging, 137 WRC plus, 24% K, 14% walk, and he had 7 home runs and how many stolen bases in that time? I do not see the stolen bases, but 18 stolen bases. So yeah, I mean, that's a really good second half. Like
hmm
that's 137 WRC plus in what 54 games with some pretty good K to walk ratio and behind the scenes stats. Like yeah, I think all
that
of
shows
us were
progress to me.
expecting.
That shows
I
progress
think
to
all of
me.
us. I think that's why 25 was so tough, is because
And
he
yeah,
just did not ever show what he showed in that second half.
yeah, that's what I was saying. I was wondering how much of that is the mental part of the game where you're disappointed and you just can't get out of the rut. And it's funny because I've spoken to people in that area and they all told me, that I don't want to say he was moping, but like that it was clear that something was wrong with him or something was bothering him.
And you wonder, so Baseball America's top 30 prospects gets released. His name's not on it. And they get a lot of feedback from the organization when they make that list. I'd be curious to see when the breakout roster comes out, if his name's on it. That might indicate how the organization feels about him right now.
I'm not putting too much stock in that. Because at the end of the day, last year, Alexander Vargas was on the breakout roster.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe it means nothing, but because like we said, the numbers are what they are. They don't have a lot of choices, but I'm
Yeah, I
I'm just
mean,
curious.
and going back to what you said earlier, and I've spoken about this before, I don't care what anybody tells you, there's an IFA bias. If you look at the numbers that, like, let's say any other player or other shortstop put up, compared to what Roderick was, how he finished out that season, he should not have spent another season at Tampa.
I'm gonna ask a weird question. What if he played second base? Does he move up? Does the Lombard cause an issue for him?
Well, he was playing third base. He was playing a lot more third base as
That's what I
well.
mean.
And,
Like
and
what?
him and Lombard played third base as well and played some second base as well. So they were flipping them around. Sure, Lombard got the bulk of the playing time at shortstop, but I'm trying to think who could have also been at second base.
I don't think they had anybody that prevented him from coexisting with him had they moved together. Because wasn't it Colmenares that played second base for Hudson Valley in
Yeah,
the early part of the year?
I
And then
think
they
he was
released him.
hurt. I think he was hurt, and he
I will
came.
say, just I think it is important to say, I get why, you're talking about it because for a young guy, that mental status can be, a big factor. But I think it is an important thing for minor leaguers to be playing different positions and
Mhm.
explore their versatility. And I'm not saying this, like crap on the guy, but if, that's you got to be able to handle that, being put in uncomfortable positions. That's the
Of
game of
course,
baseball. You're
of
getting a
course.
90,
But one
you're getting
thing
a
is,
95-mile-per-hour fastball thrown at you. You got to be able to handle switching to second base some.
yeah,
And
but
I'm
one
not
thing is,
saying that's why he struggled, but
yeah, but one thing is, yeah, he should. But another thing is, does he?
Yeah.
yeah,
I
no,
mean,
that's what I'm saying.
the same thing happened to Gary Sanchez. This is his last what? Because last year and a half with the Yankees, I think he was mostly in his
Mhm.
head. After being told for 5, 6 years, you suck, you suck, you suck. You eventually
Yeah.
start to believe it.
I wonder how within the environment the international player comes up in, when do they first experience failure? You know what I mean?
I'm gonna tell you something that one player told me. He said, and I'm just gonna translate it. He said, "Man, it's Survivor out here, man. You're on your own."
But I mean, are they showcase? Are they playing enough games that they're getting their rear end handed to them from time to time? And you know what I'm saying? Or is it like they have to get into the organization and then get beat down a little bit before they have to face failure?
I think it's also a matter of, sometimes, and again, this might have been just that one player's perspective, but you got to figure it out, right? You got to
Yeah,
figure it
no
out on your
question.
own.
Right.
Hmm. You just got to feel for the kid too, being so far away from home in a different country, playing a sport professionally and having all these expectations on him. Like you said, it doesn't get brought up enough, the mental part of the game. Like,
Carlos, maybe you can speak to this. Is there like the guys before they sign know who the other guys are, right? Like the 16-year-old kid still knows in his signing class who the
Yeah,
top
a
dogs are.
lot.
Would you say that's true?
Yeah. A lot of them know each other. Yeah, they
So
probably play in the same sand lots.
Roderick would have come up being the guy, right? In his class, or at
I mean,
least
he
one
was
of
the
the
number.
top
Yeah, of
guys.
course. Yeah, he was the number one IFA in his class. Yeah, he
I
probably knew
wonder
a
if
lot of
that
them.
I wonder if that doesn't get in your head too, like you're used to
sure.
being that guy.
The big fish in the little
Yeah.
pond. Mm-mm. All right, I'm gonna move on to this other topic that I had. Jasson versus Spencer's future. I mean, what are you guys thinking here?
I'm afraid to say because you might get mad.
Go for it, man. Go for it, man.
Well, at this point, don't you feel like the organization has told us they don't believe in Jason Dominguez's defense and they don't
It,
think he can hit right-handed?
in not so many words.
And not without saying it, this is what they're showing us.
Yeah, I mean,
They are also
Austin
showing
Slater,
us that
right?
they
Austin
don't
Slater.
think Spencer Jones can hit with enough consistency. Otherwise, I'm not sure that they give Trent Grisham the qualifying offer. Maybe they still
Right.
do, but so each one has something that the organization does not believe in yet. And the question is, does either one get the opportunity to change their minds?
But this is the same organization that told me that was trying to sell me on Josh Donaldson and saying Gio Urshela is not Josh Donaldson. So, and that Josh Donaldson, even though he shit the bed, he still needed more runway. He still needed more runway. He still needed more runway, even though he kept shitting the bed.
Yeah, you're right. But he had an MVP in his pocket and those other guys don't. And you know what the Yankee organization is
I
all
don't
they've
care about that,
always
man.
gotten
That
guys
I
on
mean,
their way down
I
because they've got track record.
what
They bet on
what
track records before they give their young guys a chance to prove
why
themselves.
am I paying for an MVP that's 5 years old? That
I'm
MVP
not,
was
I'm
like
on
five
your
years
I'm on
ago.
your
That doesn't mean shit
side.
to
I
me.
wasn't a fan of that move,
What
but
have you done
they
for me
keep
lately?
doing it.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of, I don't want to say lose-lose situation, but you're dealing with guys who have clear flaws. And while Jason has the higher floor because, I'm fairly confident he can be, at least 120 WRC plus hitter against righties. Um, Spencer Jones has prodigious upside if he can get even a below average contact rate at the MLB level. Um, it really comes down to preference and what you like as a fan. I will say from the Yankees' perspective, they need a win with Judge in the next 2 years because he's 34 years old now and Cole is 35 or 36 and coming back from Tommy John surgery. It's kind of a now or never.
The window is
And
closing.
yeah, and maybe they can, I'll be confident that maybe they can, you know, find a way to rebound. Maybe they sign Gunnar Henderson in 2029, or another. I can't think of the free agents coming up. I know the next couple classes are bad. Maybe they sign that neat superstar available. And Dax Philby is great, and Lombard's a defensive stalwart with a good bat, and someone else comes up and does really well. I don't know. That's beside the point. The point is, right now you're looking at 2, maybe 3 years to get this done with Judge. Um, what I think signing Cody Bellinger was the right move. I believe for 3 more years he can be a good player. I think Trent Grisham, all of that got a lot of flack, but for 1 year at that amount with some of the free agent deals we've seen, I think it was really good value. So you got two of the best free agent outfielders, two of the three best free agent outfielders on the market. But that does put Jasson in a precarious position. And the question you have to ask is, do you want to be like trying to find this guy spots and then hoping that, when Stanton gets hurt, he can get some runway there and, have an inconsistent playing time? Or do you say, hey, if we get a deal for, even like, I like the Graham Ashcraft deal that Ryan Garcia came up with. I like Ashcraft a lot. I think he showed real improvement as a reliever, and he has, I think he's 3 more years to control. So it's not like you're giving up, for nobody, even if it is a reliever. But, that's the question of you have to ask. You're not going to get all you want for these guys anymore. And I'm not even sure with Jasson that his value is ever gonna go up that much more unless he significantly improves either in the field or at the right side of the plate. But so that's why you have to say, do you just do this now and get him while you still have value, or see him play even less or inconsistently and see him struggle with that? It's a risk, and that's the same with Jones. Do you take the risk that he's, finds decent contact and is hitting home runs all over the place, or do you take the risk that he can't touch the ball in the major leagues and you get nothing for him?
Here's what I'm
I
gonna say.
didn't really give an answer there, but that's how I think about it.
Here's my thing, and I've said this before regarding Jasson. I've watched Jasson Dominguez play for 3 years in the minor leagues, and I know that when he comes back the second time, he comes back even better. He's learned from his mistakes, and his game just improves the second time around. And that's what I feel. That's what I felt going into the season. That if Jasson is able to get 500 at bats, he will reward you for that. He will reward you for that. That's my thinking. He's also 2, 3 years younger than Spencer Jones, and he's already at the major league level. And he probably would have come up a year sooner had it not been for the lost COVID year. There's also that. Um, and then moving on to Spencer Jones, I mean, the last part that I want to say regarding Jasson is, again, I've watched Jasson for 3 years in the minor leagues. I never saw Jasson have these problems that he's having in left field with the glove. His problem was always tracking, right? And with his speed, he was able to always close in and make the catches and make the plays. He didn't have these issues. To me, he's in his head right now, right? And that's why sometimes you see him pulling up on balls and balls bounce in front of him. He doesn't want them to get overhead. He doesn't want it, a single or an out to turn into a double. That's where I'm thinking on that. Regarding Spencer Jones, my thing with Spencer has always been like, which Spencer Jones am I going to get? Right. Last season, Spencer Jones from June 1st to July 31st, he hit 364 with a 1219 OPS. That's 30 extra base hits, 20 home runs, 11 for 11 stolen bases, a 27.9% K rate, 223 WRC plus. Right. August, he hits a buck 80. Strikeout rate balloons to 37.9. In September, he kind of bounces back. He hits 262. Walk rate drops or slightly raises to 9.7%, but the strikeout rate was 50% in that time frame. How
I know people use the back excuse, and I'm
I
sure that
think,
played some part, but I can't put all of it on the back either.
yeah, I think whatever happens with Spencer Jones, I mean, has a tough decision to make.
Yeah, and
Listen to Aaron Boone talk about him, and it doesn't sound like a guy who's just waiting for someone to break through. It's more like it makes it sound like we still have him because the chances if he clicks it in, we've got a monster. But he's got to click it in for
Yeah,
that to happen.
when he clicks it in, he's on a heater, right? But the problem is that those valleys they get real low.
So the question becomes, what can you live with? Because he looks like he can play center field. I'm not gonna say he's a top 10 defensive center fielder, but he looks like he can hold it down. How much of that swing and miss can you live with? If he's still gonna put up some numbers, can he is that the kind of player that you can have in your lineup? Because if you're going to compare him to Joey Gallo, didn't seem like they enjoyed the Joey Gallo experience.
I don't care if he puts up 700 OPS. If he's hitting 202, Yankee fans are not going to stand for it.
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Look, if he's an 850 OPS, you live with 35% strikeout. If he's 700, then you don't. Am I right about that?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you both hit the nail on the head with both Dominguez and Spencer Jones. And, I want to get back to Dominguez a bit because, Carlos, I agree with everything you said. You give that guy consistent playing time. I mean, he's only 23 years old. I think he just turned 23. Like, he's got to put it together eventually if he's given the
Birthdays,
time.
birthdays in 3 days.
Yeah, I
All
was
right,
going to say, I think his
Or maybe
birthday's
I don't
this
know. I
week.
don't know what that. I don't know when you're
so
posting
is he
this,
turning
but
23 or 24 then?
he'll be turning 23 on the 7th.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, because I saw that on Fangraphs. They must have rounded it up already or something. But
Six.
that rope of a double he hit at the very end of our postseason run, I
Mhm.
mean, was that not just the biggest slap in the face to every Yankee fan that at least wants Jasson Dominguez to succeed? I mean, I think it was like a 112-mile-an-hour double. It could have been even more. It was a rope into the gap. And I mean, that's the type of hits and that's the type of EVs this guy's going to give if you just give him more time. He's still a kid. And I
Consistent
mean,
playing
going
time.
back to the defensive issues, I mean, 100% he's in his head. I mean, as a young 20-something-year-old playing in the in not just the MLB, you're playing in Yankee Stadium. You got a lot on your shoulders. You got a lot in your head other than just this fly ball in the air. So, I mean, he's got a lot to kind of grow through, and he's got time to do it. It's just a matter of if the Yankees are going to give him the time. I don't know if that's going to happen. He's going to be a bench bat this year. So, you
So
know,
that's a question. So do you think it serves him to be on the bench? I mean, the Yankees are behaving as if they make out the opening day lineup right now, he's not in it, right?
yeah.
So does it serve him to be on the bench? Does it serve him to be in AAA?
But what
Or does
purpose
it
does
serve
this
him better to
what
be
Bench
in
for
another
sure.
what
organization?
purpose does put sending him back to AAA serve? Because
That's what
he's
I'm
not
asking.
Yeah.
because
Maybe
because
just build
you're
his
not going to be
confidence
able
more, but he doesn't
you're
need
not
that.
gonna right, but you're not going to be able to replicate the environment of left field in Scranton.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
And
for
I don't
that
know how
kid,
many
does it
at-bats
serve him
versus
best to
lefties
be
he's getting
someplace
either.
else?
Huh? What was
I
that,
don't know how
Aaron?
many at-bats he'd get versus lefties in AAA either.
Right.
It's definitely difficult because when I say this, I'm saying this, I'm taking emotion out of it. You're just looking at how to best help this 2026 team. It's trade Jasson Dominguez, get an impact reliever, and bring in, a right-handed fourth outfield option. That's just the emotionless way of viewing it. Now, when you bring emotion to it and you know what Jasson could be, it makes you kind of want to find a way to get him in because, well, I still,
Because Aaron Judge
I
isn't
probably
getting any
said,
younger.
not getting younger, and I think I've said this, I still, my comp for Jasson in a way is, a faster Jock Peterson, where he dominates on the left as a left-handed hitter, and he'll bring speed on the bases for at least the next few years. But the defense is a question mark. But it's
And
still Jock Peterson has had some pretty big years. So
and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he improve on the right from the right hand side?
the right hand side was pretty bad.
I know it was bad, but what I'm saying is that from opening day until the end of the season, I'm pretty sure he improved.
Let me see if I can
But then again, by
find
the end of
this
the
for you.
season, he wasn't getting consistent playing time.
Let me see if I can play around with Fangraphs and get this. But it's let me see splits. I know. I'm not sure if I can do by handed side over a span of time. Let's see if I can. Oh, I can. All right, let's look at the. All right, so I'm gonna do from one. Sorry for. Oh, this is gonna take. Keep talking. I'll come back to this.
Well, so how about this doomsday scenario for the Yankees? Aaron Judge playing in the WBC hurts his
Oh my
oblique.
God.
Then Jasson Dominguez is an everyday player, right?
Mhm.
But is that why he's still there? Is he's the backup plan in case something goes wrong in spring training, or do they actually have a role for him?
You mean like Trent Grisham last year?
Yeah. So did Trent Grisham was the plan for Jasson to grab that spot and then
Trent
Trent
Grisham to
stopped
me is a
hitting?
Trent Grisham is a fourth outfielder who had a career year. That's how I feel
Mhm.
until he proves
Matt,
me
you're
I
right
otherwise.
about that.
understand that take, but I think there is more to it. I don't know if he's going to be as good as he was this past year, but I think there is more to that. Also, here. So in the first half, Jasson in wait, how many plate appearances was that? It was in four. I don't know, I screwed it up, but in the first 3 months of the year, he had a 70 WRC plus versus righties, and then from July 1st through the end of the season, he had 14, but only in 19 plate appearances.
Oh.
So he was definitely seeing them less. But he was it was definitely, I don't know if it was lack of confidence or just the inconsistent playing time, but he went down from, yeah, it was 70 WRC plus in 79 plate appearances in the first half of the season. So it still wasn't good. Um,
You said it was
but
19 in the second half?
19 plate appearances in the second half with a 13 WRC plus, or I can't remember what I said now, but teens. I remember it was
Hmm.
teens. So, but like if that's a really good platoon bat. If he even was just okay at defense, that makes it so much more salvageable. That if he was even okay at defense, I don't think I think they only have to go get Bellinger or Grisham. And I think the fact that his defense is a liability, and they really care about I think they view left field as another center field. And that's why they want Bellinger out there. I know Grisham's defense has fallen, but he still cracks really well. So that's just the crux of it with Jason is it's just he's kind of a one trick pony right now. And it's just what is your confidence in those other tools coming up?
I just don't think they're going to give him enough runway to let him develop there.
Maybe if he was 35, it's like a $17 million contract.
With an MVP back in 2008,
Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah.
right. That's on him for not having.
Yep.
Well, I mean, listen, he was the MVP in 2013 and 2016 and 2019 or whatever year Mike Trout won it. Because he is Mike Trout, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You guys got anything else you want to bring up? Toby?
No, man, I think I'm good.
Good.
Yeah.
Guys?
Just excited for pitchers and catchers report next week.
You're damn right.
So let's throw this one out before we go. Off the ball, off the wall, crazy idea prediction for when guys report somebody in the minor league system who's going to show up and all of a sudden be and just shock people with what they do this year. Throw it, see if you can pull a name. Somebody's just going to be like, "Are you kidding me?" To start off. What do you got?
Andrew Landry's gonna show up the early days of spring training and some early game. He's gonna bump 98, and people are gonna be like, "Whoa, that's my thing. That's my hot."
But he was
It's
doing
probably
98 last year.
way up. Yeah, but people don't know
Oh,
his
no one
name.
noticed.
But people,
Um,
people are gonna be
you,
like,
you
"Whoa, that's not throwing 98."
you know how I know that Yankee fans are aware of a prospect because they put him in mock trades. As soon as they learn the name of a prospect, they want him in a mock trade. I saw last week some people were adding Steven Martinez to trades, and I purposely said Martinez.
There is a Steven Martinez, just not with the Yankees, right? Weren't they going to sign him and he ended up with the Orioles? Am I wrong?
Yes. That
That
was like
sounds
2 seasons
familiar.
ago. Yeah, 2 seasons ago. But yeah, they learned Martinez's name and started throwing him in mock trades. All right. On that
You
note,
got
guys,
your prediction? You
my
got one of your
prediction?
off the wall? I'll throw mine out there.
I got
This
it.
is my off the
I got
wall
it. I
from
got
Mars
it.
thing.
Spencer Jones becomes a two-way player.
There we go. Antonio Gomez
Oh my God.
becomes a relief prospect, a
Wait a minute.
legit
He just had
relief
Tommy John
prospect.
though. He
What's
just had
that?
Tommy John.
They just signed him back. I don't know that he had Tommy
He
John.
had
He had
Tommy John at
something.
the end of last season. Yeah, he blew out his
You
elbow, I
sure it was
think.
Tommy John and not something else?
I'm pretty sure it was Tommy
I thought it
John.
was Tommy John, but I might be wrong.
Because he had that before.
No, that's why they shut him down. You didn't notice they shut him down?
Now, I did notice they shut him, but I didn't think it was for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it was for that. I'm pretty sure.
All right. So
I
either
can,
that
I can
was
confirm. I can confirm it with Brophy, but I'm pretty
either
sure
I'm
it was
totally
that.
wrong. So I don't know why they would sign him back if he had another Tommy John. So let's say that I'm right. He had something else. He
Because they're paying
becomes
him $10,000 a year. Why not?
he's throwing 100 miles an hour, and everybody's talking about him.
I mean, he was originally a pitcher, so he told him he was a pitcher. They wanted to force him to be a catcher.
What I mean, it's unlocked.
Right.
Yeah, real quick before we go, I don't know, this won't be like a spring training take necessarily, kind of just a whole year take maybe, but I don't really feel like I hear too much conversation about Pico Cone in the kind of
Mm.
middle of our prospect rankings. I know he is well known by a lot of prospect people and was an absolute dog at Mississippi State from the left side. I think he shoots up into the top 10 rankings by the end of the year, whether it's trades or just him doing his thing on the mound. I could really see him rising. And I mean, I've just been high on him since his days in the SEC, man. So I can't wait to see him pitch for us. And even Blake Gillespie, too, won't be a top 10 guy, but I mean, dude could easily rise into the top 30. I mean, that dude was a
Nasty
dog out of
slider.
the, just such a dog out of the American. I mean, it pained me as an FAU alum watching Blake Gillespie just chop up the American and week in and week out. But I really like seeing the Yankees take him in the draft. So those are my two guys that I'm gonna be keeping an eye out this year. Two arms that I'm really excited for.
Just got my Pico Cone autograph from eBay.
There we
So
Oh
go.
my
make it
God.
Oh,
happen,
that's
Pico.
Oh
awesome.
yeah.
So let me ask you a question. Where does Pico start the season?
Hudson Valley.
You're
Hudson
wearing it.
Valley.
Yep,
How
definitely.
explain how he's going to start at Hudson Valley?
We
Because
just told
he
you.
is
Just
an
that damn
SEC,
good.
he's an SEC
Tell me the
experienced pitcher.
rotation.
And
Tell me the rotation at Hudson Valley
oh
on
gosh,
opening
give me a
day.
second.
How are you not ready for that question?
Because I don't got the Hudson Valley hat on, man.
I mean, Landry, Rivas will be there. I think Cone will be there. I think Matt Cure might be there. Jack Siebert will be there.
In the rotation or in the bullpen?
I think he'll be a rotation arm.
I do too. He's getting a lot of buzz.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those five names. I maybe Cade Smith will probably start there.
You
Though I
think
could see
so?
him being.
Yeah, I think
I
so
just
because he
think
just
it was
he only threw.
see him being a double A. I'm playing it safe with him, and I Makai.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think
I'm
he only
gonna
threw like 20 innings last year.
you know what? I remember I did this last year. I'm gonna look over it. I'm gonna come back with my predictions for this, for the minor league rotations.
Yeah, there we go.
I didn't hear you mention Henry Lalane's name for Hudson Valley.
I'm wondering what is because was he hurt for most of last year? Because he only made
He
seven
was
starts.
yeah,
So
he
when
pitched
did he
about
go
20.
down? Because I didn't look at
No,
that.
he started hurt. He had a shoulder problem. He pitched about 20 innings
Gotcha.
last year.
Gotcha.
Did you put a video up of him or was it him on his own social? Because he looked free and easy, whatever he just
Yeah, I
posted.
spoke to him the other day. He told me he's already at 95.
There we go.
He said he's
That's
feeling
good.
good. He said he's feeling good. He's about, I think he said like 85, 90%,
That's good.
but he's sitting about 95, which is good.
At
There's
85
I
another
mean,
guy.
he was only sitting like 91, 92 when he pitched
Oh my
last
God, that
year,
was
right?
scary.
So,
No, was it last year or was it the year before? I remember they shut him down after he was hitting like 90, 91. I was like, yo, what the hell?
I mean, either way, if he's at 95 and he brings that to the season and can maintain it, that's a good sign because that's what he needs to get
Yeah.
his stock back up.
hmm
So I'm not going to give up on a 20, I guess he'll be 22 early on. I'm not going to give up on him, given, but it's with pitcher injuries, those careers can just, so we'll definitely be rooting for him though and hope that, that velocity sticks.
All right.
That's for the Hudson Valley rotation. At the rate we're going, the snow won't melt by the middle of April, so they won't be playing for a while anyway. So I haven't seen grass in 2 months here.
My God. On that note, guys, I'm going to head out. Thank you all for coming on. Appreciate you all. We'll catch you on the next episode.